gonna walk around you.
Right, let's see here. Okay, let me see if I can get.
Am I gonna need to turn around?
No, I don't think so. I think you'll be all right.
Okay.
Let's see here. Right, it's 10:29. I gotta stay right on track today because I got a crazy day. Okay. Boom. Boom. I hate it when the mouse is backwards.
Yeah. Do you want to exit out of that box?
No.
Okay.
I'm looking for something. Okay. How's my household? Okay. Yeah, it's probably gonna need me to. Anyways. All right. What's up, Eddie? Not much, man.
Mm-hmm.
I think this one's gonna be better. Does this one have the best view of the board, Shannon?
Yeah, it's like I can't see all of it though. It's cut off a little bit.
It'll come up.
Oh, okay.
It'll move, hopefully. Okay. Let me see if Chris is gonna be on. Chris, Janae, Edward.
Good view of Eddie.
Chris, Janae, Edward. Yeah, that does kind of suck. You might need to move. It's probably gonna want to just keep going over to you. Go sit on that chair back there. Test, test, test. Come on, dude. All these learning experiences from this camera thing. Oh well, we'll start talking. All right. So Nick thought it would be a good idea. There we go. Nick thought it would be a good idea, and I think it's a good idea too, to talk about trade-in from the perspective of I know that you guys are going to be like you guys are using trade-in as a way to get appointments at open houses, right? And I want to make sure that what we're noticing is like it's the way it's being explained at the open house is not actually the way it works. And I just want to make sure everyone knows how it works. That way you can, just enough to get them on the hook, right? And it's a very complex transaction. Try to sit like back in that chair. It is a very complex transaction, okay? And explaining it to a customer should be left to like me, right? Nick is just getting the hang of, how to explain the new program, but don't go too deep into explaining it to the customer because if that happens, then we have to like recover and explain it again. Any like misunderstanding for a customer is at risk for like losing their confidence, and it's not a strong meeting, right? So in a nutshell, let me make sure we're recording. Recording, good. And then let's just make this bigger. Can you hear good, Shannon? Yeah?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay. So in a nutshell, we'll call it trade-in, but really it's buy before you sell. And so I'm going to go over very quickly dang, you can't see that very good. All right, who qualifies and how you can know if they're going to qualify, like on the fly. Okay. Number one is high equity owners. Number one. So like if you're explaining to someone at the open house, you would say, we have a great program that allows you to buy before you sell. We call it trade-in, right? And if they ask, well, how does that work, right? And you say, well, we got to set a meeting at your home so we can tell you, how much equity you have. You have to have a decent amount of equity. If you're finding out in that meeting they bought their home 2 years ago, probably not a good candidate for trade-in, unless they put a lot of money down, right? So number one is high equity owners. Number two is they're okay with higher payments. That's kind of all buyers right now. Because even if they're buying first, interest rates are higher typically than what they're currently in now, right? So if they're in a home with a 3% interest rate, that interest rate is going to go to 6%, right? So they need to be understanding that they're probably going to be having a higher payment unless they're doing a substantial downsize. They can qualify in multiple states. I'm not sure of every state, but like Nevada, Texas, Tennessee, all qualify. So even if they say, yeah, we're interested in buying a home out of state, they can qualify for buy before you sell. Okay, I would just say yes to the meeting. We HomeLight do not buy the home. So they are not getting a cash offer on the home, right? It's just getting a loan against, almost like a home equity line of credit. And that's a good way to explain it to the consumer. This is similar to a home equity line of credit, although it's faster and you're not making 2 mortgage payments at the same time. Okay, so they have to have high equity. They have to be okay with higher payments. They can go to multiple states. You're not buying the home, so they're not. It's not like a cash offer on their home. So do not say, we give you a cash offer, then you can move, and then we sell the home again, because that's not how it works anymore. And then I'm trying to think. No new construction homes. Let's say neighborhoods. If there's any building in the neighborhood, they will not do trade-in. And let that be a sign. It's really hard to sell homes in new construction neighborhoods. So no new construction. Also on some like multifamily homes, like townhomes and condos and things like that, there are some restrictions against it as well. Any questions around qualifications? One more thing I would add. They have to qualify for a mortgage. So they have to have good credit, good income. When they qualify them for the mortgage and they qualify them for buy before you sell, they're just qualifying them on the new home. Okay, assuming that their old home is not there anymore, right? So that's one of the advantages of using like the buy before you sell. that lender is making the assumption that the home is already sold, a home equity line of credit, you have to be able to have assets and income to afford 2 homes at the same time, and most people cannot qualify, right? Yeah.
Cause I think when they first brought this out, there couldn't be any kind of dings on their mortgage either.
Yeah.
Like no kind of tax liens, no notice of default, even if it was like 7-8 years ago. Is that still the case?
That would be a question for the loan officer. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I've never run across it, honestly.
Okay.
But I would guess no, like, because this is for highly qualified individuals, right? You have to have pretty stellar credit. But you have to qualify for a mortgage. So you're setting that client's expectation that this is a mortgage product. We're helping you unlock your equity, similar to a HELOC. It all starts with us meeting you and looking at your home to see how much equity you have. Then we can go over how the program works. Make sense? They have to be really motivated to buy. Like, we're not just going to meet them to say your home is worth X and here's how you do it. We have to have a clear motivation of why they want to sell and buy. And you really need to know they're going to be okay with a little bit higher payments or payments comparable to what they have now, just like any buyer right now. The sellers who are buyers are going to be the most difficult ones. You have to really dig.
Is there a timeline for this?
We'll get into that. Yeah. What do you mean a timeline of how long it takes?
Like, do they get, like they say they get qualified, it's like you have 90 days to go find your house or whatever.
I'll go over that a little bit. Okay, so quickly, cost. Because again, I don't want you guys to get too deep into trying to explain this to someone at an open house or in your follow-up, but I want you to know, like, if you're asked, you can answer with clarity. Right now, it costs 1.25% loan fee. If that fee is going up, I think at the end of February or something, right? So any loan a buyer goes to get is going to have some kind of loan fee attached to it, right? So this is not like an additional fee on top of all the other fees. It's just to use this loan product, here's how much it costs. But it's a pretty good deal if you're paying 1.25%. If you don't have to be in your home for showings, you could buy non-contingent, you can make a 15-day closing offer. You're going to save more than 1.25% on your offer, guaranteed, right? You're going to have to, you can submit offers 2 or 3% less than what you'd have to pay if you had a contingent offer and your house is not sold yet. Make sense? The benefit of the program is you can make non-contingent offers. Even when the market's slow, you're going to save even more money, because getting a seller to accept your offer with a 15-day closing, you can submit offers at lower prices. In a spring market where there's multiple offers, you have a chance to win and actually move contingent, right? The other advantage is you can get out of your house and we can make ready repairs if needed, right? Almost every home needs some kind of repair. Trying to do it while they live there is very hard, right? So they're going to sell their home for probably 2 or 3% more. Because they're gone, we can renovate it, use concierge on top of it, and get it listed. Does that make sense? Okay. So the costs are 1.25% if they use HomeLine. It's like 3.5 if they want to use their own lender, and no one ever does. Okay. Like if they want to say, well, I want to use Keith, so they're going to use 3.5% loan fee. And that still is a pretty good deal if someone ever did that. So it's just like a loan fee. The timelines, like the process, let's say, so who qualifies, we're clear on, like, it's just like qualifying for a mortgage. So you're going to qualify the customer in the same way you would if they say, yeah, I want to buy a house. This is a hot lead. What are the questions, LP Mama, right? It's you should have all that stuff answered before the appointment is set, right? And you want to be clear with them, like, it's not like you're getting a cash offer on your home. It's not like, this is a loan product. That's what it is, okay? But it uses the equity of your home to qualify you. So let's say we have I'm trying to keep it really simple with the math, a $1 million home, okay? Let's say the seller thinks their home is worth $1 million, okay? And we do a quick, this is gonna be like on the fly calculation of how this program works. We think it's worth about $1 million and we agree, okay? We go on a meeting with them. I look at the house and I agree. I think it's about $1 million, right? We think it's 950 to 1.1. That's a pretty safe estimate in today's market when the market's swinging, right? So I say conservatively, we say it's worth about $1 million, right? Well, with buy before you sell, usually you can get access to around 70% of your equity. Does anybody know if you got a HELOC, what percentage of your equity you can get?
Supporting.
That's about 70. Yeah, so if you have $1 million in equity, they don't give you all of your equity access, right? No, just like on down payments, unless it's a government loan, you need 20-30% down, right? You're required to have skin in the game. You can't withdraw all your equity from an equity line of credit. Okay? So the customer, like a good customer, this is where the hook is of how you know if they can qualify to use trade-in on the fly, okay? So very quickly, you can know, okay, you have $1 million in it. This is, let's just say the home is paid off, just to keep it easy, right? Or no, let's say they owe 50%, okay? 50%, 500,000 loan for shits and giggles. So they have 500,000 in equity. What's 70% of 500? Can someone do that math?
350.
Is that right? Well, you got the master's degree, so that's probably right.
Well, it wasn't in math, so.
Oh, 350. Whoa. Oh my gosh. If anyone needs a math problem solved, text Bradley. Okay, so this client on the fly, they would have around 650 or 350,000 equity to use, okay? So this would be like the buy before you sell down payment loan. That's what it is, okay? In the old program, they would say it's worth $1 million minus your fees, minus your holding costs. You have about 70% left over after all those things. I'm gonna explain them to you. So you have 350,000 in cash you can put down on your next house because we'll buy the home from you. Here's what you walk away with. But when you sell your home in a couple months, you're gonna get the rest of your money, and it still works that way. But here's where the rub is, okay, and why it's important you do your due diligence or learn to do your due diligence because you're not doing this. This should be done at the appointment with the client. You should know generally what is it worth, 70% of that, how much equity will they have? Well, if it's only 50,000, it's not gonna work, right? It just won't. It won't, especially if they wanna buy a $650,000 home and they want their payment to be X and they wanna put basically they cannot put all their equity down, right? And if they think they need to put all their equity down to have a payment that they want, they can't use buy before you sell.
Got it.
And I'm gonna explain why. So in this instance, someone has $1 million home, they have a mortgage amount of 500, they have about 500,000 in equity. What they can use to buy before they sell is 350,000. Well, let's say they want to downsize to a $750,000 home, right? Let's say to buy. Now let's do this math.
400.
$400,000 mortgage, right?
Yep.
So in this instance, this person who has $1 million home, a $500,000 loan balance, probably at 3%, is going from a $500,000 mortgage to a $400,000 mortgage at probably 6%, okay? The payment's actually gonna be higher on the $750,000 home than it is on their current home. Make sense?
Yeah.
But if they could use the other, 25% of their equity, they can actually lower the payment. So usually, this is why you need to know this number first, because if you kind of understand what they want, you can do the math and say, well, this is not gonna work, or it's a good appointment and we can make it work, okay? I would say they need to have around, at minimum, 50% equity to make this work, okay?
Yep.
Like, their loan balance needs to be 50% of what it's worth, okay? So let's look at this. I'm gonna make this a little bit more easy to understand on the formula. So this is the trade, let's call it the trade-in formula. $1 million home, let's say we get the valuation from Home Light, the appraisal, and they say it's worth $1 million, okay? Well, whatever our listing fee is, they're gonna hold that out of, let's say it's 5.5%. They're gonna hold that out of the equity, so the seller can't use that because they need to pay their fee when the home sells. Do we got that? Okay. With buy before you sell, they're holding back all of your expenses you're gonna have, and to make sure you have the money to pay your commissions, closing costs, holding costs through the duration until you find your home and sell it. Got it? So let's say it's 55,000 in commissions. Then they're gonna hold around 1.5% for closing costs, okay? And then they're gonna hold back around, it really just depends, but I've seen it anywhere from 10 to 15%. They hold back for a buffer of price range, because they want to make sure that they're holding, not every home is going to sell right at $1 million, right? So they're going to hold back 100,000 as a price range buffer, just in case the valuation is off, okay? These are also not fees that the seller would incur if they sold traditional too. That's what's important about explaining to the seller, like, none of this is unique, or this is not fees for using buy before you sell. These are fees whether we sell your house as is right now, or we use buy before you sell. We're just holding them on the front end until you actually sell. They'll also do the 1.5% trade-in fee. So they hold that back too, that's 15,000. And then they will also hold back, depending on your mortgage payments and your holding costs, 3 months. I would call it holding costs. Usually it's like 1.5, 2% of the amount. So this here is how you get down to 70% of your equity can be used. Everyone following?
Yes.
Okay. So let's take 500,000, because that's their equity, minus 55,000, minus 15,000, minus 100,000, minus 15,000, minus whatever holding costs are. I didn't factor holding costs into this, but in the real formula, it's probably actually closer to 315,000 to put down as a down payment, not 350. Okay. The only way they can get this, the seller can get this, is to schedule a listing appointment, they allow us to start the process to get the trade-in valuation. And then like the timeline from the appointment when we submit them for trade-in is about 5 to 7 days. Approval process. So if you're at the open house, do not say we can qualify you for trade-in, and you can write an offer on this house. Do not ever say that, because it takes like a week to get it. They're not in a position to buy. But when they're done with the approval process, they are in a position to buy that next day. Like, and that's the powerful script you need to tell people is like, once you're approved, like the beauty of the buy before you sell concept is once you're approved, nothing starts until you find your dream home. And that's the way it really should be. It's like the unicorn of real estate, right? Like it could be 30 days from now, it could be 4 months from now. But when that perfect house comes up and it's like the perfect house, there is no way you can take action to buy it without being ready to buy first. I mean, you with certainty. Like you could write a contingent offer, you could hope you get that offer accepted, but it's like a 30% chance you're gonna get it, right? And it's gonna be dismally hard, you know, trying to prep your house, show it with your kids and time it right. You're gonna concede on cost. Like it's gonna cost a lot more to sell your house, and it's gonna be a pain in the ass. Or you can get qualified for buy before you sell, and when the house comes up, we can write a 15-day close. You could literally be moved into your new home in 21 days. Like, and we can sell your old home where you don't have to worry about it at all, right? It's a very compelling value proposition to buyer, seller specifically. Okay, any questions on this? Yeah.
So I believe it was mentioned earlier that doing this, you would still only have one payment, similar to a HELOC, but faster and only one payment. So if they close on the new house and they still have this other one.
So here's what happens with that.
Is that when the holding costs come into play?
Yeah, this is just, let's just say, this is the estimate that, you know, it takes 5-7 days. We get all this printout in a long sheet. They have access. That's why I start with telling them you have access to about 70%. Sometimes this comes back and they actually can get 78%, right? But a good rule of thumb is they can only use about 70% of their equity. And if that's a done deal for them and they cannot do what they want to do, there's no point in setting the listing appointment anymore. For trade-in specifically, we can look at trade-in as an option, and we can look at our other options as well, moving more conventionally depending on what you need. But once the customer decides, right? So let's say that's the front end, that's like qualifying the trade-in. Once we have the whole formula done, and let's say we're going to the consultation, after we've done the listing appointment to, like, really it's a 2 or 3 step listing appointment, really. The first step is just helping them understand, like, what is this program, and getting pictures and getting them to buy into letting us do the qualification. The second step is really the consultation to break it all down for them. And then show them, okay, here's exactly what it costs, here's what you can afford, here's how it works. But they'll hold back the 3 months of expenses, okay, on the old home. And then the buyer makes the payments on the new loan. On new home, okay. Buyer is covering all the costs on the new loan. They have held back the expenses and they wire it to the buyer at closing on the new home. The buyer continues to make the payments on the old home. However, the money from their equity came to them. And so they're the ones responsible to make the payment. We're just learning this on a trade-in right now. Like, I didn't know that. Like, you know, that's totally a new concept. But on the old model, even when they closed on the home, they still took 3 months of expenses from the seller when they closed, and they were using that money to make payments on the home, okay? Utilities all stay, everything stays in the seller's name. They just have this chunk of money to now make mortgage coverage while they're listed, okay? The other important thing to know is, the question always comes up, and you're probably gonna get this at the open house, which is, well, what happens if my house doesn't sell?
Yes.
Right? And so taking the same for what if, I'm just gonna shorten it, doesn't sell, okay? Let's take the same concept, 1 million valuation, $500,000 mortgage, okay? Whatever all the rest of those fees were, we came up with, let's just say it's 350, okay? 350 equity. that we have, okay? So whatever that amount is.
150.
150 minus 350.
Can I ask a quick question?
Hold on. This, once we go through that summary of all the expenses, okay? Once we give that breakdown to the seller, they have a standing offer at the net amount. Does that make sense? So it's actually a guaranteed offer amount. So if they say, okay, your house is worth $1 million, we're holding back 5.5, all these expenses, 10% market risk fee, right? Or a holdback, let's say. Whatever the net amount is before their loan balance is what the offer is. So worst case scenario, if we go buy another home with our 70% of our equity and we try to sell our home and it can't sell, we have a guaranteed offer that will be executed in 90 days to rid ourselves of the old house no matter what. You're looking very confused.
Yeah, I don't know where that 650 number came from.
It came from $1 million minus the 350, which is the equity that it's basically 70% of
So
what the
loan
home
plus
is
the,
worth.
loan plus whatever was held back, basically.
It's 70% of the market value.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah, that 30%,
Mhm.
that buffer is, because if you think about it, they go buy a new home already, right? We list a home, we thought it was gonna sell for $1 million, but it doesn't. Now we reduce it to 900 and then it doesn't sell again. Cause at 900, that was the 10%, right? So if we start making reductions and it doesn't sell, they have a guaranteed offer amount when they start the trade-in process that they sign and agree to from the get-go.
Got it. Okay.
In the old model, if the sale already happened, that was the bare minimum they were walking away with. It was guaranteed because they closed already. In this concept, it's the same thing. It's just an offer that stands there until the 90 days is up. And if for some reason the home can't sell, the seller wants to execute this offer, they can. And there's a standing offer when they make the buy first model. Everyone looks like they've glazed over totally.
It just sounds painful.
This is also why I don't want you explaining it on the open house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
not going to.
well, I'm thinking
This was
about
detailed.
like a 49er house or the Buckman house, was that a trade-in?
Yeah, and those are great examples of why they moved to this concept.
Yeah.
Because HomeLight has been making payments on those homes. They're selling far below what the seller walked away with. Those sellers got great deals because the market is not bearing what HomeLight actually paid them. Like even, for example, on 49er, the valuation was $1,050,000. And the seller walked away with his net offer from the very get-go with a sale price of basically like $885 was what he sold the home for. But we're currently at $865 and it's unsold. And that then if he sold it at $865 minus his fees, it's actually like the home sold for $825.
Yeah.
So he's walking away, even though in his mind, he's like, I lost money. I keep reminding him like, dude, you are netting like $100,000 more than if we pulled the trigger and sold the house the traditional way.
And he's
Right.
free of it.
Yeah, it's already done, except he owes me money, but yeah, it's done. So you need to make sure that they know. They would say, well, what happens if my house doesn't sell? You tell them there's a standing offer on the house. If it's not sold in 90 days, it's gonna sell regardless, guaranteed.
Perfect. And we don't have to come up with that number. HomeLight will tell them that number.
Right. Well, I will tell them the number, but yeah, once the evaluation is done, I present them the scenario.
Got it.
Yeah. Got it? Okay. This is really what you need to know. The 70%. Remember that number.
Of their equity.
Yes, of their equity,
That's pretty important.
okay? Of their equity. So if a customer says, well, what's this trade? How do I buy my next home first? You tell them, well, we can help you with that, right? We have a program We have a program that allows you to buy first, but we need to qualify you for that program by coming and looking at the house, right? You do need to have high equity to use the program. So let me ask you, like, how much equity do you think you have, right? What's your loan balance, what's your house worth, right? And if all of those things are kind of checking the boxes and they say they have 500,000 in equity and they want to downsize and buy a different home, you can quickly do the math, right? And set up the appointment.
What if they are actually looking to not downsize, but go the other way, to upsize?
It doesn't matter. You just do the
The
same
math is the same, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I find that if they're looking to upsize, those appointments are just fizzling out.
Got it.
Yeah. If they're looking to upsize, it's just so expensive to upsize that they're either here's the hardest part of trade-in right now. I'm gonna share this with you so you know, so you can explain it, okay? Let's use this scenario, okay? They own, so let's say current home. $1,500,000 loan. This is the value, okay? Their current home is $1 million. They have a $500,000 loan. Let's do buy before you sell. They can access, let's say 350, okay? Which if everything goes perfect, they should actually have, they get 350 to, let me purchase, okay? 750,000. They can put 350,000 down, okay? Down payment. Right? If everything goes according to plan and we list the home, we sell for $1 million, everything went perfect, right? They will actually have what they call a second check, right? They should get their 100,000 back, the 10%. Sometimes that's 15% or 12%, depending on where the neighborhood is. What I'm also finding with the valuations right now, if I think it's worth $1 million, the valuation is coming in at 920, right? So they're building in not only the 10%, they're building in, just like Open Door does with their offers, they're building in market buffer with the offer valuation of what they say it's worth, okay? So that's squeezing the sellers too. They're losing equity because they're saying it's worth less than what it probably really is. And then also they have to hold back all the closing costs. But so if they get a second check of 110,000 after we sell their current home, 90 days later, that would be great, right? They get full market value. They got to buy their next house. Everything happened perfectly, okay? But if this 350 on the $750,000 home at today's interest rates doesn't give them a payment that they want because it's going to be higher than their old payment, they cannot put the rest of this money down after the fact and do what's called a principal reduction recast to get a lower payment.
They cannot.
They cannot.
Okay.
That is the early on in trade-in that they could. Now they cannot. So this is the biggest problem I'm finding, is that they want to put all their equity down. So if they have no extra money, like in this instance, they should borrow the 110 from savings or a retirement account, and then they can recoup and put it back once they sell. But if they need all of their equity to have a payment that they want, they just are disqualifying themselves from the trade-in program altogether. We'll have to sell it traditional so they can get all their equity, put it down as a down payment. Now they can afford the house they want with the payment that they want.
That makes sense.
Okay? it gets even harder when we're not talking about someone with $500,000 in equity and downsizing to 750. If it's someone at a $600,000 home, they have 200,000 in equity, and now they want to go to an $800,000 home, it's even harder, right? So, buy before you sell is your key metrics to know if we should even like go down that. We should use it as a hook to get the listing appointment for sure. But you should know internally, and as you're explaining it to someone, oh, this sounds like you might be tight on equity, but we should sit down and really go over this before like saying that you need it. Does this all make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, that second check, it's really important, because if they put another 110 down, now their loan balance is like 280, right? Or 290.
290.
And the mortgage payment's probably $800 bucks less.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
We have to be clear with them that they have to be okay using, but there's no other way to do that. Like, there's no other way to get 100% of your equity and make an offer. So this is not unusual. It's not like they can do this. They can refinance, put the money down when they refinance, and then hopefully have a lower payment after that. But then you're paying refinancing fees and running the risk that your rate's higher and all those things.
Yeah.
Got it? Any questions about this?
I have two.
Yes.
The $350 that they get to put for the down payment, is that 0%?
Yes.
And do they have a time frame on how quickly they need to pay it back?
90 days.
Okay.
So in reality, because we're gonna use the same number, okay? Shannon, do you have any questions?
Well, I do, but I think the goal would be for me to at least just set the listing appointment and remember about the equity to 70% and then kind of let you guys explain it.
It is, I think it takes, Janae, you've been on what, 3 or 4 of these appointments now?
Yeah.
How many more appointments would you say it would take before you can like effectively explain that whole process? I mean, it took me months. I would say probably 30 appointments to actually have feel like I can get a seller to buy into the program. Because I would go on the meetings and I couldn't get their buy-in, and I lost listings because of that, right? And didn't even convert them to a conventional listing, right? And then I started to really understand how to explain it in a way that the seller's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. If you explain it wrong and you say, we're only giving you 70% of your equity, they're gonna say, well, then let me talk to a real estate agent, right? You have to make them understand that write this down. Like, that was cool. You see that?
Yes.
Made me feel like I was part of my baseball days. Here's the key takeaways, I would say. Okay, number 1, 70% of equity for down payment. Okay, 70% of equity for down payment. Number 2, no interest on down payment loan. Because that's what it is. The 350 is a loan from HomeLight with 0 interest to buy their home, assuming they're selling their home and they're paying back the down payment loan. Okay? Because the seller's actually getting all the equity at closing, but they're giving the down payment back, right? And then their additional down payment or whatever it is that they want, right? So HomeLight's actually doing the loan early and giving them a loan to buy the house. 2 loans, down payment loan with 0 interest and a normal loan for the balance. You couldn't do that with a conventional lender. Like, you couldn't go to a Chase Bank and say, Bradley's giving me a $350,000, he's giving me my down payment at 0% interest. They would not allow you to do that. Like, you can't get a loan for a down payment. Okay, that's a red flag that you can't pay for it. Okay, no interest on the down payment loan. Number 3, standing offer on your home. You're guaranteed to sell. Although it's not at the price you want, you're guaranteed to sell your house, okay?
Well, you can choose to continue having it listed.
There's actually, I don't know that yet. I assume, and based on what they explained to me, as long as the seller is consistently reducing the price and doing everything they're supposed to do, they will not execute the agreement. But in the loan agreement, it's actually a 90-day balloon payment. At 90 days per the contract, it's like your note gets called due, and if you don't have that money, in reality, if they really, really wanted to, they could start the foreclosure process. I guarantee that HomeLight won't do that because they're pitching this program as, you know, trying to help the customer. I think it's in there. If your seller's not willing to reduce price, they're not willing to do anything to sell the house, they're going to come and take it, right? They're going to come and get the house. So number 4, the best way to explain it is there are really no added costs versus conventional sale. Super important, because when you start showing them that spreadsheet and they think I'm getting 70% less money, in their mind, it's really hard for them to understand, well, wait, how am I only getting 70%? It's so unconventional, the traditional process, because they're selling it twice, basically, right? Even though they're getting a down payment loan, it's like they sold the home, they got part of their money. And then when we do sell it and it actually sells and we try to hope that the plan went right, they get the balance of their funds, okay? In the end, when they get that second check, if everything's gone right, it's no more expensive to use the program than a conventional sale with a conventional purchase. Because there's a loan fee for any lender, there's closing costs for any lender, you're paying commissions whether we do trade-in or not, you're paying holding costs no matter what. If you sell your home, if we list your home with a contingency, that process still takes 90 to 120 days. So you're making mortgage payments on your home the whole time, right? And so if we have proven data that says if we submit offers with no contingency, we can get the house for less money, right? And there's proven data, if we get you out of your home and get all your shit out of it because it's packed full of stuff, it's going to sell for more money, right? Those 2 facts alone make it so buy before you sell actually puts more money in their pocket, and you have to get them to buy into that. Once they see that, if they believe in, I'm going to save money on the purchase, I'm going to sell my house for more money, and it's just going to eliminate tons of stress, they have to believe the savings part. The stress part is not enough for them to look at 70% and make a decision. They have to buy into, I'm going to save money on the purchase, I'm going to get the house that I want in the timeline that I want, and I'm also going to save money on my sale, right? If they don't believe that, they will not do it.
So when they go to buy the home, it's still a cash offer from HomeLight
No.
that they can make? It's a
No.
loan offer.
So, okay. Any more questions on the key takeaways? You have those 4 things written down. If you just say those 4 things to a customer, you've done your job, you've kind of explained everything to them, it should convert them for you, okay? The key point that I make all the time, especially I tell them over and over again, is like this, you know, they're looking at it like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so expensive. And then I'll break down for them, well, let's look at if we sold your house today, right? Let's say all fixed up and, you know, perfect condition, $1 million. Well, if we list it as is today, it's gonna be $950, 5.5% fee, still paying that. 1.5% closing costs, still paying that. You're gonna get a loan, so that loan is gonna cost you 1.5%, right? You're gonna hold the home for 90 days while we list and sell and try. So that's gonna cost you about 1.5%, right? The only difference is that perceived like 10% holdback. And I tell them at $950, that 10% is built into my mind because we might sell for less than $950. So you have to let them see, like, there's no difference here in the cost. All you're doing is guaranteeing the house sells for sure. Like, you know your house is sold. In the contingent move, we can't guarantee that ever, right? We could still lose a buyer, we could still lose the deal, we can get stuck in contract on the new home and unsold on your home. And 4 months later, you could not have found a buyer and bought a home and you can give up. And you just spent 4 months running around in circles, right? But, so this is a key point that you should know, like, the cash offer program is its own program.
I understand that that's a completely separate
Yeah,
program.
so if
but-
you wanna do that, it costs additional fees, just like you would do, explain to a buyer in a buyer consult. So no, buy before you sell is not a cash offer unless you want it to be, and then you're gonna pay, I think it's 1.5%. So,
Cash offer, okay.
1.5% for cash offer. 1.25% for conventional offer. Right? But with the conventional offer, we have no issue getting accepted, right?
Because-
And they're putting a big chunk of money down usually,
Mhm.
right? 30%, 40%. Okay?
Got it.
Well, we have a little bit more time. Shannon, any questions?
I think I'm good. Those key takeaways really helped. That like
Okay.
breaking it down like that. Yeah, I wrote all of those down.
Did they teach you this in Ignite?
No, I haven't learned
No. That was just a joke.
those. Oh, okay. I was like, I don't think we do that.
Ways, you'll know when I'm joking eventually. Ways to move, buy, sell. Okay? You should know this when you're talking to leads. And I would also say every new lead we get and every new lead you talk to, you need to ask the question, do you have a home to sell? Okay? You know, the statistic is something around 35% of all inbound internet leads that are buyers also have a home to sell. We're just not getting it. Because usually we didn't ask the question. So I'd ask the question to everybody you meet. Oh, do you already own a home? Like, are you gonna sell that home? Who are you working with to sell that home? Got it? So the traditional way for buy and sell would be to write a contingent offer on new home. Okay? That's the most traditional sure bet for a owner to know they are getting the home they want without selling their home and without time frame issues and all of that. Okay, you explain to someone, we can write offers and before you sell your house, okay? But that means your house needs to be ready to go to market in 24 hours, right? So we would want to start prepping your house, getting it ready, right? All of that. But here's how I explain it to them. This is a 30% success rate. Okay, and today, in last year's market, it was like a 0%. But today, I would guess it's probably about 30%. And it's gonna cost you 5 to 10% more. Okay? In purchase price. Say it's listed at $1 million, you're gonna have to pay $1 million or $1,025,000. But if we come in with a 12-day close, you can close in 2 weeks, you know, no loan contingency, no appraisal contingency. I guarantee I can get that house for $950,000, right? Number 2 would be list first, get buyer, then write. This is the primary way I would have sellers move. This gives them like a 70% success rate. Okay? And still maybe a little less, 5% more on cost. Okay? This means we prepare the home, we get it ready, we list the house, we get a buyer, and we negotiate with the buyer that we're contingent on a replacement home. Okay, this is called contingent on selling. This is called contingent on sell and buy. Got it? This is the very best way someone can move if they don't have any money to buy their next house, okay? Number 3 option, buy first, self-funded. Ways that they can do that, 10% down, low down. Okay, maybe they have money, like a little money saved, and they can afford to put 10% down on another home, but they have to be able to qualify for holding their current home and the new home and using those reserves to put 10% down. Okay, but this is a great option. I've moved tons of people this way. You know, they borrow 10% from their 401k. They put that down on the new home. We sell the old home. We made sure that the loan was, you could recast the loan. Once they get their full equity, they do a principal reduction recast, and that basically re-amortizes their loan and lowers their payment without refinancing. Make sense?
Yep.
Buy first, slow down, or buy first, they can leverage their 401k. Investments. Refinances, whatever the case may be, okay?
Is that also a first time home buyer?
No,
The number 3, okay.
no, this is all for buy and sell.
Oh, that's right, right.
Yeah. I mean, first time home buyers can put low down and use investment stuff.
Yeah.
100% success. You know, you might not win every offer, but this is a sure bet. Right? No contingency. But downfalls are 2 payments, risk of not selling, right? The other risk would be, or some of the downfalls, you have to have high assets. Like, you know, when I bought my cabin, right, they verified that I needed to show them proof of 1 year of expenses on that cabin in reserves, right? Like when you start buying a second home and stuff like that, they need proof that you can afford your current home and your second home for 6 months or 1 year without any additional income, right? So when you start like these, you need to be pretty well qualified, and you have to be a pretty legit buyer to be able to buy your next home, even with a low down payment. It's not just about how much money they have in the bank. It's about how much income do they have, how many assets do they have. They take into account, it's not like I had that sitting in the bank. They look at my 401k and investment accounts. Like, could the buyer liquidate their 401k and cover the payments on this stuff? They look at the whole picture, not just how much money is in your savings account, okay? And then number 4 is, you know, trade-in. 100% success. I would call it a 5 to 10% savings. So when I sit down and I talk to someone on a trade-in appointment, this is what I show them, right? I can help you. We can do this, you know, no matter how you want to move. We got this. We can totally do this. These are your options, right? All of these options, these 2 options suck, right? I mean, they do suck. Like, you ask people who've made the move, these 2 options before, 9 of 10 will tell you, no matter how smooth the process went and how fast it went, it freaking sucks, right? Like, it sucks. The last 2 years has been the best time to kind of make these kinds of moves because you can sell your house fast. You got a great price. Buyers gave you any amount of time you needed. But in the normal world, it's very hard to get these things done, right? and they fall out of escrow, you gotta go back on the market, you lose the house that you wanted the first time, now you gotta go find a different one. It's a cluster. And you're living in the house, you're trying to work, you have kids, keeping it clean for showings, all the stuff, right? So like when you show them this, if you show them this, I mean, it's pretty compelling. They always land here, right? Like it is, but the challenge has been that 30% that we lose isn't enough at today's interest rates to, like, the payments are too high on the new home with a limited down payment, and they just can't. They just can't make the move, right? So we have to start looking at how do we write contingent? How do we get the house ready first? Or they just saying, hey, it's not worth it to move right now, right? And so this is what you need to, this really is what you should be telling people at the open house, right? Is like, oh, here's the 4 ways you could do this. And this is, in a nutshell, the key points of how Buy Before You Sell works. You know, that if you want to learn more or get qualified, we need to come out and see the house. And once I see the house, I can give you answers to all 4. I can show you exactly how to do each one. And if you could use number 3, right? I can know based on how much money you have if you could qualify, and we can give you an answer on trade-in.
And he said you should make a flyer of that little,
Oh, I've thought about that too.
I think it would be,
That's what we talked about.
that's a nice thing to, show somebody at an open house. It's like, if you're interested, you know, here's the basic ways to sell your house. We'd
Yeah.
like to come talk to you about your choices.
We can do that. I can do that. Okay, any questions before we wrap up?
I have one question. What if the offer on the home is, let's say, in that scenario, $1 million, the offer on the home comes in at 500, then will Home Line still honor the 650 offer purchase price?